Robinson's the runner at third with nobody out. Seaver pitching. Go outside fastball hit hard to right center field. Here comes Swoboda out of nowhere. Nowhere. He's made the most incredible catch in World Series history. Holy cow, Frank Robinson has tagged up and scored the tying run from third, but you just witnessed one of the great plays in World Series history.
Okay, we're the catch with Ron Swoboda, and I'm Chris Champagne. The catch is a show where we talk about baseball with one of the all-time New York Mets greats, Ron Swoboda. How you doing, Ron?
Terrific. How about you?
Okay. Well, listen. Today our subject is going to be. Well, first of all, I almost forgot. I have a trivia question. We start with a trivia question, and we'll answer it at the end. In the 1880s, 1890s. Spain decided, or Cuba, I should say, but it was owned by Spain, decided to outlaw baseball. And why? A, because it was interfering with their agricultural ventures, because people wanted to play all the time. B, because they wanted bullfighting to be the sport, not baseball. Or C, it interfered with kids going to school because all they wanted to do was play baseball. Or D, they wanted to get rid of it because it was an import from America, and they were Spain. Okay, so we'll get to that at the end of the show. But today's show, we're going to talk about the crown princes of baseball. Now, there were three, two of which most people probably have some knowledge, and I'll get to the other one a little bit later. But the first one was a guy named Al Schacht. And did you ever meet him?
I think I think he, I never saw him do his act.
Right.
He was really way before me, but I think I heard of his name, because he was, the clown, one of the early clown princes, New York Giant, something I think. I don't know why the Giants.
He was a third base coach. He played with the Senators briefly for about 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And then he was a third base coach. And,
little different act, but you might know more about his act.
Okay, he used to, how he got into it, he would mimic the other players.
Yes.
So he was good at mimicking the other players, and that's how he got into it. And he had a partner named Nick Altrock. And at some point, they had a fight. And even though they were still together as partners in their little shtick, they didn't like each other. And they actually reenacted the Dempsey-Tunney fight as a mime. But they said that they hated each other so badly that they were beating the hell out of each other. And he also had a restaurant in New York, which is why I thought maybe you might have.
Yes. Yeah. I remember that. Okay. I do remember going there, like a steakhouse or something like that. Yeah.
Because it was. The restaurant was in the background of one of the shots of Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Yes, and these guys were, when baseball needed a little something more than just baseball. These guys provided it, a little comedy to draw fans. That's what they were there for. That's what made their living.
And in the last podcast, we talked about. I think we talked about. Some of the Jewish players, Koufax and Shamsky. Well, Mr. Schacht was Jewish, and he said, and the reason he's Jewish, he said, my father's Jewish, my mother is Jewish, I speak Yiddish, I studied to be a rabbi and a cantor, and that is how rumors get started. And so he was what we would call the original crown prince of baseball, because then someone came along and took his place, more contemporary with you and me, and that would be Max Patkin.
See, I saw Max Patkin when I was playing in the minor leagues.
Okay.
I saw Max Patkin came out when I was on the Yankees,
Okay.
And this would have been like 1970, early 70s. Max Patkin came and played Yankee Stadium. They brought him back. Now, he was way down the road in terms of his act, but he came, and I found him funny as heck. And we got to hang out with him because he came in there, and he was really really wanted you to enjoy what he would ask you, did I do that right? Did you like that? Because he would do he really got into, the game, coached third base, went out, warmed up, did a lot of stuff that you had to sort of accept it within the context of a baseball game where, all we had ever learned was it's pretty serious business and it's your career, and Max was doing his act, but he was always very sensitive about whether his stuff was working. Is it going, and did I do that well? Did you like that? And it was fun to be around him because he was like a comic who was incredibly sensitive about, whether he was doing what he was getting paid to do for.
Well, that's why he lasted a long time, because he cared.
He did. How long was his career? That I don't know. How long was his?
51 years.
Wow.
4,000. He said he performed over 4,000 times. And from 1944 to 1993, he says he never missed an appearance.
Wow.
That's pretty good.
Well, and the other thing was, he was incredibly, flexible. He would do contortions that were just incredible.
Yeah, he was pretty limber, yeah.
Oh man, you can imagine what he was doing to increase and maintain and increase his flexibility to do some of the stuff he, bending all the way down on the ground to do something, from the waist, and it was incredible physicality to it, is what I remember.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. Yeah. Like slapstick or whatever.
It absolutely was, and was it an intrusion from our perspective? Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask you. Yeah, how did y'all feel about that?
Well, you did. It was like you had to accommodate this clown while you're out there trying to play baseball, the two don't go together at all. But he figured out, because he knew enough about the game. And the other thing was, this guy's out there trying to make a living, man. Let's let him do what he's got to do.
He didn't come there every day. He just there once in a while.
Right. Yeah. And it was a very similar act that he had perfected over the years. And he was really, really fabulous. He was a piece of the game. He had made himself a piece of the game and the game's history.
Well, one of the things that I learned about him looking up stuff for the show here is that he was a minor league player, but he wasn't really good enough, I guess, to make it into the majors. And of course, he went into the Navy. And how he started being a clown, according to what you see on the stories that are written about him in the New York Times or Wikipedia or whatever, is that he was in the Navy and he was pitching in a game, and Joe DiMaggio was, going around and playing against these Navy people. And of course, Joe DiMaggio hit a home run off of him. So he chased him around. He started chasing him around. And that's how he got the idea to do all of this. And then, 4,000 performances later, and he became the crown prince of baseball. A guy named Watermelon Slim wrote a song about him called Max the Baseball Clown. I've never heard it, but he got a song.
I'd love to hear it,
Yeah, me too. And another thing is, he's kind of like a precursor to how minor league baseball is now, because you always have something.
Well, you think of the Savannah Bananas now.
Right.
It's the whole game is comedic. The whole idea of what they're doing out there is comedic, and it's to entertain, to don't worry about the rules of baseball. We're going to make this fun, and all the characters they present to you. A guy like Max Patkin was one guy. Now you have the Savannah Bananas. It's a whole team.
It's like the Globetrotters of baseball.
Absolutely.
Except that they only, I guess they travel. I don't know. I don't know if they do. Well, Patkin was also the first base coach in the majors. He was the first, and you'll never guess who hired him. Okay, Bill Veeck. Okay, Bill Veeck hired him.
Veeck is in rec.
Yeah, Bill Veeck signed him as his first base coach in the 40s.
I can understand it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That sounds like Veeck.
I spent a little time with Bill Veeck because Veeck as in wreck.
Yeah.
He was a fabulously interesting guy, well-read, well-traveled. I asked him about his affection for baseball, and he said, "I'm not a purist." He said, "I like 13 to 10 games as long as we have the 13." But he did things, remember some of the things that Veeck did that, when you're talking about these baseball comedians, you're talking about promotions within the game of baseball. Veeck did things like they burned a big pile of a disco record night, and it turned into a riot and whatnot. And it was crazy stuff like that. They did. They won the pennant one year under Veeck in Cleveland, I believe, and with the Browns. And the next year they didn't do very well. And when they were eliminated from the pennant, they held a very elaborate formal funeral for the pennant.
Yeah.
And they drove it out there in a big funeral cortege with the thing, and they drove it out into center field, and they dug a hole and they buried it out there. And he would tell the story, and he says, as far as I know, it's still there.
Yeah.
And that's when, that stadium still existed. But Veeck was, he hired the midget.
Right, I was going to say Eddie Goodell.
I get
Eddie Goodell.
Eddie Goodell was I guess dwarf would be a better, more politically correct term, but yeah, the guy was a couple of feet tall. He had a strike zone that was like 2.5 inches top to bottom, and I remember the story when Bill Veeck was working with this guy. All of a sudden, here's Eddie Goodell starting to stand up there like Joe DiMaggio and start to take big hacks at the ball, because he was only there for one reason, that go up there and get a walk.
Yeah.
And they gave him a one-day contract. And all of a sudden he was acting like, man, I can hit this ball. And Veeck says, look, just remember, he said, I'm going to be sitting up at the top of the stadium with a high-powered rifle. If you even look like you're going to swing at it, I'm going to shoot you dead right on the spot. That was the joke line. But So Eddie Goodell made his appearance, and he got his walk, and baseball said no more one-day contracts. Because they didn't think, Bill's sense of humor wasn't what baseball was about back then. But that's really what we're talking about, finding some humor, promoting the game when it needed some promotion. And Bill Veeck, who was like, I'm not a purist. I think we should entertain you.
Yeah, well, he was I think he was the general manager or whatever or whatever you call it, owner, I guess, of the White Sox in '59.
Yes.
When they won the pennant.
Yes.
And the White Sox, the next year, were the first team to have a scoreboard that had the exploding scoreboard when you would hit a home run. They were the first one. Now they all have that now. They do something. And he also was the only one that they had. He had a scoreboard. It was called the Soxogram. So they would messages. That was his idea. He had a lot of ideas like that. And
well, he was a guy that he really loved the game of baseball.
Yeah.
And he would do anything to promote the game of baseball. But when he was done and an older guy, you'd find him out in center field, in the seats out in the bleachers in Wrigley Field in Chicago, when they played only day games.
Right.
That was his idea of enjoying himself, was to go out and watch the Cubs play day ball.
Well, Patkin, another thing I wanted to tell you about Patkin is that on July 20th, 1969, he did a game, he appeared at a game at Great Falls, Montana. And the crowd was 4 people, because that was the night of the moon landing.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And he said there were 4 people, and 2 of them were the parents of the starting pitcher.
Well, I can understand that. I know where I was that night because we were in Montreal, and with the Mets in 1969. That, of course, was our glory year. But we had finished a series against the Montreal Expos, and here's the Apollo 11 crew, and you know they're getting ready, you know, they're on the moon by this point, and they're getting ready to, you know, Armstrong to take that giant leap for mankind, a small step for man, a giant leap for mankind. And we finished the game and went to the airport, and our aircraft wouldn't work. It was we had a problem, equipment problem with our aircraft, and so that's how we were able to see Armstrong step on the moon live by TV, because we had a equipment problem with our aircraft. The irony, of course, was not lost on us that here's two guys on the surface of the moon from Earth, and we can't get from Montreal back to New York.
Yeah. You know, yeah. Which brings us up to, do you know about the Shrine of the Eternals in the baseball reliquary?
No, I don't.
Well, a guy like Patkin and Schacht, they're probably all both in the Shrine of it. I know that Patkin is in the Shrine of Eternals of the baseball reliquary. It's in California, and it's kind of like a Hall of Fame, baseball Hall of Fame, but it's like the criteria to get in is kind of loose.
Uh-huh.
And they vote different people in. So that so Max Patkin is that kind of person. You know, Vec is a person like that. I'm sure the San Diego Chicken is. We need to do a show on that, okay? Because it's a really interesting situation.
I love the San Diego Chicken. I thought he was the most interesting character.
Yeah, he was great.
He invented the whole thing, and you know, to a point where he became bigger than San Diego.
Yeah.
Where he started.
Right. Yeah. Well, that brings up a good question here. When you were playing when he first started, right? Or is that okay? So how did the players react to having that going on?
I thought he was brilliant.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I really did. I mean, it was pretty original physical comedy, and the suit was perfect. And this guy's condition to do the act that he did, his physical conditioning was incredible, really.
Well, I'm sure that's true.
And that was part of it, you know, that was really part of it.
But there must have been some of the players who were agitated by it, though, huh?
I suppose. I mean, you know, if you were a pitcher, you know, I mean, that's a different position. You know, I'm out in the outfield or I'm sitting on the bench. You know, if you were a pitcher and the San Diego Chicken is trying to do some kind of a bit, you know, I'm sure you don't appreciate it quite the same.
Sure. What about Ron Luciano?
The umpire.
Yeah.
With his sort of
He had a
he was more of a, we would call that showboat.
Okay.
Showboat antics.
Okay. So that didn't go over too well.
I just wanted him to be a good umpire.
Yeah,
you know, you can do all that crap if you want to,
right?
But just be a good umpire. Don't monkey with the game in a way that maybe affects the outcome of the game, because I always felt like that was kind of a, you know, sacrosanct sort of thing. Don't mess with the outcome.
Okay, well, that's why I asked the question.
Yeah.
I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Okay, now, I don't know if you're aware of this guy. We're going to talk about the guy who was actually the first crown prince of baseball, but I don't know whether they called him that. They called him the freshest man on earth because there was a song that was popular at the time that he played before 1900.
Yeah.
And his name was Orly Latham.
Oh, wow.
And his father was a bugler in the Union Army. Because he was born in 1860. Was Orly.
Okay.
And he was also the first person from New Hampshire ever to make it into the major leagues.
Holy cow.
So he's kind of an interesting guy.
Your research is
just because
incredible.
Of that.
Yes.
Thank you. And he played 1,276 games in the majors, which is quite a bit.
It's not,
He still holds the record for the most errors ever committed by a third baseman
In his short period of
in
time.
a career, 822.
Wow.
He's-
Wow. Did he wear a glove?
I don't know.
Well, you know, back then there were more errors in that,
Than
because the gloves were not
I
really
see,
gloves.
I see.
It was
Yeah,
different,
yeah,
so.
yeah.
But if you were gonna, miss a bunch of them, I mean, the first gloves didn't even have a web in them, and the fingers weren't stitched together, so they weren't really, it was just to protect your hand more than anything early on. But yeah, a lot of errors. If you go back and look at statistics from pre 1900, a lot more errors.
Okay. Well, I
Yeah, you didn't have the right glove, but if you
Right.
missed it, they still hit you with an error.
well, this guy was pretty much of a character, and to show you how much of
I
a
guess
character.
you make that many errors, you better have
You
a sense
better
of
have,
humor.
Well, he became the third base coach, I think, for the Giants. But when he was the third base coach for the Giants, there was no coaching box. So he would run up and down the side and scream at the pitcher, okay? All right?
Yeah.
So after he did that for a while, the National League decided that they needed to have a coaching box. So he's the person that's why they have a coaching box, because he would just run up and down and scream
Put
at the pitcher.
him in the box.
And he would also, whenever he would wave somebody in, when they were in from round and third, he would do a somersault. Okay? And
That's like the coaching box, the batter's box. I mean, that used to be one of those gags you would play on some clubhouse boy.
I see.
Who just started to work for the team, or a rookie or something. You'd ask him to, go get the keys to the batter's box,
Oh, okay.
and he was like running around asking everybody, and everybody knew what the gag was. I mean, there were those kinds of things in the clubhouse where you took advantage of the newbies.
Yeah. There was a lot. There was some of that in. We did a show about movies earlier, and there was a lot of that in Bang the Drum Slowly. A lot of that little playing jokes on the new guys. Well, this guy, Ollie Latham, is the reason that they had the coaching box, and he also had a couple other things that he did that were kind of interesting. Well, just goes to show you what a different time it was when he was playing, in 1890 or whatever.
Right.
At the end of the season, he had 20 fights with players scheduled for later in the off season.
He had a card,
Yes,
right? He was on all the.
And 5 of them were with teammates. so I don't know. Did y'all didn't have that, did you?
No, that didn't happen.
Okay.
No.
Well, another thing, he got mad at the umpire once, and he took his glove and he just threw his glove at the umpire's feet in anger, and kicked it towards the umpire, and the umpire kicked it back to him. So he kicked it back to the umpire, and they just kept kicking it back and forth like they were playing soccer until the glove ended all the way in the center field. They kept kicking it at each other. So, and then another time, they were playing for the championship, like a playoff, to win the National League pennant. And he would play with the Browns, and they were playing Brooklyn. And they were winning in the 7th inning, and it started to get dark because they didn't have lights.
What year is this about?
This is like 1896 or something.
Okay, so it's not the Brooklyn Dodgers. It
No.
could be the Brooklyn
Robins or something
Super
like that.
Robins and Super
Superbas,
Bas
yeah,
and
yeah.
all that stuff.
So anyway, he started. What he did, they asked him to stop the game, but they wouldn't. So he went and got 12 candles and put them in a dugout and lit them. And the umpire came over and blew them all out. And then he lit them again. So and they ended up the umpire forfeited the game because of him doing that. So the other team won the pennant, according to what I just read. So yeah. Now there's another thing.
It wasn't a menorah. It was just 12 candles, right?
Yeah, just 12 candles.
I got you.
It wasn't. Now another thing, during World War I, Orly Latham, he went to England to help with baseball over there. I guess for the soldiers or whatever, for morale or whatever.
Right.
And he ended up staying for 17 years as the commissioner of English baseball. And he got to be.
And there was baseball there.
And he got to hobnob with the Royals.
Because wars and whatnot were
Yeah.
helped spread baseball when Americans went over to Europe and whatnot. You know,
Right.
baseball started in places where it didn't exist, in Italy and other
Right.
places,
That's right.
for sure.
And he also taught the King of England how to pitch. And he said he was pretty good. He said he had a pretty good arm. He said, but he had played cricket all of his life. So
Right.
he couldn't get him out of the
Stiff
the
arm,
stiff
he
arm.
bowled it.
Yeah,
You know, you
right.
don't throw a cricket ball, you bowl it.
And Latham also, he stole 679 bases, which is quite a bit of bases for 1,200 games,
Not bad.
you know. But his antics about running up and down the coach's box, and they changed the the rules because of that. Are you familiar with this story? There was a guy named Germany Schaefer. He played between 1900 and 1920.
No.
I think you read the book, so maybe you've heard the story before. But anyway, talk about changing the rules. He was kind of a guy like this guy. He would have a lot of antics. He was
Yes.
kind of known for being an imp or whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, he was on first base, and there was a runner on third. And in the old gambit, you try to steal with less than 2 outs. You try to steal second, and then they throw down a second. The guy in third tries to steal home.
Right.
So that's what they did. He ran to second to try to get a throw, but they didn't throw. So on the next pitch, he ran back to first base.
First base, that's right. Well, let's try this again.
So they were surprised. So they threw to first to get him, and then of course the guy from third scored. So the next day or whatever, they changed the rules. You can't steal
go
first.
backwards.
You can't go
Yeah.
backwards anymore. So that was I thought that was pretty cool. That was an interesting story. Now, well, you did a lot of minor league baseball as a color man, and we're talking about these, Max Patkin and Mr. Shack doing these baseball shtick or whatever. Now, I mean, that's kind of like one of the bread and butters of minor league teams of having some kind of entertainment.
Yeah,
You know?
the costumes where they blow them up, and and
Yeah.
there's a whole regime of gags that involve these costumes where the guy can inside the thing, it can go right in, swallowed up into the costume, right, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But they're blow up outfits, and I'm
Right,
trying to
right.
think of what the name of them is.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know. What
But
the name of
there's
that.
they're still out there doing that bit, and
Yeah.
like the guy can he swallows the player, and
Oh yeah, he's in his.
and he goes inside the blow up costume, and
Right.
like his glove comes out and his shoe comes out, and he spits them out. It's like it's there's some pretty good gags and bits that are done now that move around all of the minor league ballparks
Right.
Still to this day.
I'm sure there are people that make their living, like you said, like Max Patkin did, going around to
Oh
different
no, those
minor leagues.
those things are not out of date.
Yeah, and I mean, and you were talking about how, the game is serious for y'all because it's where you make your living and everything, and you're serious about baseball. And a guy like the San Diego Chicken or somebody else comes out and kind of disrupts everything, or Max Patkin. But I mean, if you're a minor leaguer and you're really trying to make it, I mean, that may be even more irritating, don't you think?
I think it depends on the sensitivity of the gag, and
Yeah, as long as it's not personal.
Yeah. Because some of the acts are pretty good,
Yeah.
and they're really funny, and you've seen them a couple of times, and they're still funny. When I was doing color for the Zephyrs, and who became the Baby Cakes here in New Orleans, there were certain acts that came through every year, and they might come through a couple of times, and there's a little variation on them. But for the most part, they worked to the benefit. They were worth the investment.
Yeah. Well, just to jump sports for just a second, in the NFL, the Jacksonville Jaguar, Jackson DeVille, their on-field mascot, he became infamous because he would get in people's face and stuff. He would aggravate them so much that they wanted to go grab him.
Oh, well, they've had things where the mascot gets a little out of line, you know, where he takes himself a little too seriously.
Okay, well,
and
there you go.
It can happen. I mean,
Yeah. Did you ever see it yourself, or?
yeah, I mean, there, you know, and I remember when, you know, John Stearns was a guy playing for the Mets, and you know, in Atlanta, you know, the Indian would run out to the,
Yeah.
and Stearns,
Chief
who
Knockahoma.
played football at Colorado, you know, was a defensive back, and John lined him up and tackled him, and you know, it wasn't part of the show, but he took him out pretty good, and I think he ended up paying some kind of a fine for that. But Stearnsy, one of my favorite guys,
Yeah, well, that sounds
former New York Met who just passed away a couple of years ago. One of my favorite guys.
Yeah, well, sorry about that, but, okay, well, now, you're listening to The Catch with Ron Swoboda, Chris Champagne. Now we're gonna answer the trivia question we started the show off with. In the 1890s, Spain owned Cuba still, and they banned baseball. Why? A, because it was interfering with their agriculture enterprises. B, because they wanted bullfighting to be their game and not baseball. C, because it interfered with the education, because all the kids wanted to do was play baseball. Or D, they didn't like baseball because it was an American import, and they were Spain.
My guess is, you know, the Spanish-American War was around then.
Yeah.
I lived in Baltimore, where we had a Tidewater steel plant, Bethlehem Steel, when I was growing up as a kid, and they imported, first time America imported around the turn of the 20th century, after the Spanish-American War. They imported iron ore for the first time outside the continental U.S. by boat. So it was a Tidewater steel plant. That was connected to the Spanish-American War. I'm thinking there's a connection to the Spanish-American War, that it was because it was American and they didn't want it.
Okay, well, actually, it was because they considered bullfighting their national sport, and it was
So they didn't want any competition.
right,
Well, you fooled me then.
because it was
You fooled me.
it was overwhelming their love of bullfighting.
I was trying to sound
No, you sound that was
historically
plausible. That was-
relevant
no,
and erudite, and
Listen,
I missed the whole point.
no, well, I don't know if you missed the whole point, but I've been there though. I can tell you a story about that about when I was in school, but that's okay. But listen,